The storyboard you're about to see is just a part of a full video that is currently on my main channel. Go check it out right now if you haven't seen it. Stay tuned till after the video to get a little behind the scenes look at how I put it together.
Don't give me the moral high ground speech, Morty. Different variations of this kid exist in at least 4 other realities. I promise this one won't be missed.
Whoa. Why do you want this stupid watch anyway? Can't you just make one yourself?
All right, listen, it was created by a scientist named Azimuth as an apology for creating a weapon responsible for destroying an entire planet. So I guess that would be like me recreating a personal apology for something stupid you did, Morty. Don't be an idiot.
Oh, well, why does a kid have this thing anyway? Isn't it a little dangerous?
I don't know, Morty. I'm not an expert in 10-year-olds with DNA alternating watches. Now shut up and check this out. Whoa! Check it out! I'm Stinkfly Rick!
Rick, I think you should probably chill out.
Oh, snap! I'm on
Basically, I just wanted to show you really quick what I did since I didn't really use a traditional method of animation for this project. Normally, you would use a software like Adobe Animate or maybe literally anything else. You can actually animate within Photoshop as well. I chose not to do that because my methods, my trades are usually Photoshop and Premiere separately, and I found a way to kind of use both of them here just to the best of my knowledge. As you can see here, like on the side, I have a bunch of bins, or I have labeled a bunch of shots. So basically, I decided in my own head kind of what each shot was going to look like or how it was going to be composed. And so obviously, I'm very comfortable drawing in Photoshop, so it wasn't very difficult for me to kind of go in and draw the scene that I was imagining in my head. And on top of the first drawing there, I would, oops, this is for the other video. Here, I'll go into one of these shots. But basically, if you can see here, what I have is a bunch of drawings separated, but I would basically draw Rick's head or a couple different Rick heads on different layers. And I would have maybe like I had one body shot here, and then I had a few arm movements. So basically what would happen is I would bring this in to the timeline. I would just drag the Photoshop file into Premiere, and I would just take the layers. I would export them, or I would like import them individually, and then I would layer them myself on top of each other to like represent like they did in Photoshop, and then I would cut them to kind of like play sequentially the way that they would in the show or like in this animation. So for this for this part in particular, I used like 2 drawings mainly of Rick's hands here. So like, and I just moved them to kind of simulate motion. And this is a separate drawing here, but I had the one drawing of the hand here, and then Rick moves his hand. That's a couple frames of movement here. And then I have a separate drawing where he grabs it, and then that's one drawing, and I move it out of the way. So it's just really interesting. It's kind of some trickery here, but it looks actually pretty decent whenever you play it. And you can't tell it's like 2 drawings. So it's kind of cheating, but it looks really good in play. So I think it works, and it's kind of all you need to do to really tell the story. Basically, for shots like this, I kind of have, I think this would maybe be a better example here. It would be earlier on. This was actually, this beginning part of the animation here was actually like my first attempt back a year ago when I first posted the animatic. And I was really overwhelmed with kind of like the style I was using. I had cut out each limb or each part of Rick's body, like this arm, this part of the arm, this part of the arm, the hand, and did it all separately. And I was trying to nest it in Photoshop or in Premiere, and it was just way too complicated. So I kind of gave up, but I came back, and that's why this shot looks a little different. Because I just took a whole new approach to it and just way better. But as you can see here, I did kind of the same thing. I have Morty layered behind here, and I can zoom into the layers so you can kind of see what I did. But so you have Morty being the same here, and then he turns his head, and these are all separate drawings in Photoshop. And I have the eyes on separate layers, so they stay in a different place. Like in the same place, no matter where the drawing changes. And I would move, and I would just change the, the eye placement per shot. So like it could be like, I'm gonna go in here and actually mess with this. If I go to the editing part of Premiere, I can click on one of these layers. So like this would be the eye layer. So I'm just gonna move his eyes around, and it kind of doesn't matter where I put it. because I'm clicking and creating a cut in the eye layer and moving it for the next layer. So I could put it over here if I wanted to, for the next one. So you see how it kind of just like does this. I hope that kind of makes sense. I don't know. I'm just explaining it how it makes sense in my head. To me, having this layers was just really. This is probably basically how it would work in a normal animation software. You would kind of have your nested pieces or your symbols. But I thought I would just show you guys the weird way that I put this together, because it's, in my opinion, it's kind of unique and it's like where I'm really comfortable drawing stuff. And obviously, I drew this one background and moved it around a bunch of times um for this animation, but it's really interesting, and I think that I achieved
Morty,
an
different
interesting look
variations of this
here.
kid exist in at least 4 other
um
realities. I promise this one won't be missed.
I'm trying to find a good example of where I did like a bounce, but this was an interesting shot as well. This was a stagnant shot of him just crouched over, and with the keyframes or with the shots, I did one here. I moved the drawing up. I made his torso long enough to where I could have some flexibility with the movement. I had here, and then in the next frame, I moved him down and moved him down again. So it's kind of a more subtle movement down. So it looks like he's crouching down actually. And then if you look inside this, and you might think like, okay, like don't you have to move all of these layers at once? And how did you get this hand to work like this without, with the movements? It looks like it's still attached to him the whole time. Well, it is. So I actually merged these layers together, and so this Rick inside this merge thing doesn't move at all. So I have the layer with the color on it. So if you look here, I have a layer dedicated to the colors of the Omnitrix, so I can turn that on and off at will, and I kind of have them spaced out here as I'd like them to appear. I hope this is interesting to you, and this kind of makes sense, because I don't know if I'll do another animation like this. I would like to learn how to just do it in an actual animation software, but I thought it was fascinating, and I thought that I would show other people that you don't have to just do it one way. You can kind of find your own method of telling the story with whatever tools that you have available to you. I've done animations in Flash before and did kind of like a hand-drawn frame by frame look, but that's just a completely different vibe, and I was just really comfortable using these tools, so I just said, how can I make this animation with what I know how to do? And for me it's draw, and I know how to keyframe really well in Premiere. And something that I made sure I didn't do, I was doing it initially, but I decided it didn't look good, was it only worked really well in this spot here. But so how we see how the keyframes kind of move him up and down. I have the keyframes here, but again, he's nested here, so like he doesn't move anywhere in the nested sequence. And again, for the wings, I just have like the 3 different drawings that make up his wings just playing really quickly over and over again. I did the same thing with the eyes and the mouth. Just placed it over the character. The mouths are obviously a separate layer. So it's just. I'll show you another example of that really quick. Sorry if this is just kind of all over the place, but I really just wanted to tack this on to the end of the animatics. I figured it would be a really good opportunity to kind of do that. But so obviously we have like Morty's eyes here, so you can turn those guys off. Here's what was right here. I think this was just what was this? I can't tell, but that's the only other trouble here, is you kind of don't know what's on each layer, but you have to label them correctly in Photoshop. It's very important. But here's like the mouths. So I would replace the closed mouth with the open mouth and create a different couple mouth shapes so that it looks normal when he spoke. And a couple places here I did cheat, and I just used the same Rick head that I had been using in another shot, because they weren't that different. So it was just kind of fun ways to find workarounds. And obviously, like for this drawing, oops, sorry, I got a text. For this, I don't know, it's just really cool, and I wanted to share this with you guys. I wanted to give you guys a look at how I did it. It's kind of bizarre. You don't often see this, and maybe there are people that do this. I don't know. I need to either learn how to animate in Photoshop, because I know you can do that, or vice versa. But this just goes to show that if you don't stop trying to innovate and get better at what you do, because I, for one, didn't know how I was going to do this animation a year ago, and then I ended up coming back to it and kind of enjoying figuring out how to make it look good this time around. But so anyway, hope that was helpful for you guys. I will see you guys later. Bye.